those of us, I mean, I remember the first Gulf War, and I remember how quickly markets typically shrug off, at least the stock market, shrug off what seemed like major geopolitical events to the point where we think that that's just a given. Is it going to happen again that way, do you think?
So, you think about sort of take a step back in the context that we're operating in the deal market, certainly at Moelis. We came into the year with a lot of tailwind. I mean, constructive financing markets, strong equity markets, really looking and still look to an active deal market. And thus far, and I know we're still early days into this situation in Iran, but I do think people have become somewhat conditioned to the geopolitical noise out there and are trying to look past it to see, where things can go, both on the strategic end and the sponsor end. There's no question. So I agree with you that there has, I think, been a more forward-looking thought process, and that's why you don't see this complete shattering of anything.
I don't think the Strait has ever been closed, though, in the past. Could it start with a disruption in oil and spread to stocks and bonds?
I'd say, from America's standpoint, we have never been situated as good as we are now in terms of energy security, but it's a global market. So to your point, I think if we go another week and there isn't some indication of an end or an exit and how this will end, I think maybe you're going to see some shocks. But right now, well, things are going pretty good. I mean, set aside the noise and all the partisan attacks. Look at what our military has done. It's phenomenal.
I was going to talk about it. So if we hadn't done Iraq and didn't have that experience fresh in our minds, do you think it would still be like this? In other words, you look at what Iran has done over the past 47 years. This should not be a major shock that we finally are saying up. Now, I know Republicans got a Republican, Democrats of all got a Democrat. So I understand what they're doing, but do they want this to work? Can they look you straight in the face and say, I'm hoping for success here? Or do they hate Trump so much that they hope this fails?
Stipulate that suggestion. Yes, they are so deranged about Trump. They just can't get over it.
They trade that feeling for hoping that we fail?
Joe, I think things went awry and divided under Obama. If you remember, Wendy Sherman.
Elections have consequences, Eric.
Right.
Didn't he say that to you?
But it all started then with Iran as well. He and his team went behind the backs of the Sunni Gulf allies of ours in the Arab world, went behind the backs of Israel and started discussions with Tehran on that JCPOA.
That's right.
That's where things became partisan around Iran. And you're right. You end up now, it has just grown since then. And that was, 13, 12 years ago. And that's where we are now. They have their side. They think diplomacy should work and we shouldn't have done this. And it's just unbelievable, unfathomable to me that they're not stepping up. Now, there's going to be a test in the House today. And I do think that there will be some Democrats that will step up and vote with Republicans against the War Powers resolution.
Less than 5?
We'll see. I mean, I'm not close enough to know.
It's almost sometimes I think it's almost a mass hysteria. I do. I think that, and they see each other talk and they go, "Oh, he really just said that. I can say that too without." Fetterman, I think for whatever reason, listens and he just said, "I cannot."
This is insanity.
I cannot abide by this.
Right. He says this is just insanity. We are for America. We want our troops to prevail and to be safe, and we want America to continue to be that force in the world, and that's what he'll say.
I know Andrew wants to ask about Anthropic. Andrew, is Anthropic full of former Biden administration tech people and censorship? No. Is that? No. I was just positing that. Eric seemed to.
Look, Andrew, there is no way that this isn't just all about politics. This is about politics. I'm not sure where you come out on this. I know you've taken a real look inside as to what's going on. But it just seems to me that the introduction of these values, all of a sudden telling the Department of War how to conduct war.
Modi called him what did he say, dictator? What was it? Bend the knee to the dictator?
No, what he said was that others had bent the knee at this what he called dictator style, whatever. But
yeah,
but I think the point. But here's the point, guys. The point is that in both the case of Anthropic and in the case of OpenAI, so also in the case of OpenAI, they are both inserting language into their contracts that say how their software can or cannot be used.
But how preposterous is that, though, really? I mean,
if you decide it's preposterous, then it should be preposterous across the board, and that shouldn't be allowed at all. But if you decide that it is allowed, then it's very difficult to claim that one company is a supply chain risk to you and to the globe, and that the other one, for some reason, is completely fine. You see the issue?
Well, look, but Andrew, look, I mean, I just start with the notion and the opposition or the voices that are now criticizing Sam Altman's moves and allegedly pushing him to ask for some type of amendment to the rules of use of OpenAI. This all came from.
He already has certain language in the contract. Now he's trying to strengthen the language.
But this all came from the eruption around Anthropic. This all came from the partisan voices inside that company who don't want to allow the success of the operation right now in Iran. We were just talking about it on set. This is unbelievable to me, where partisanship has now gotten in the way of whether America should prevail or not on the battlefield.
Hold on. The idea that Anthropic doesn't want the United States to succeed on the battlefield, first of all, in Iran or in any battlefield, I think is just completely and utterly inaccurate.
Well, then why are they having this discussion?
Because the discussion is the following. They have built a tool that is still under development. They know that that tool in certain cases does not work. It actually does not work. I talked about it in the 6 o'clock hour. It's like having a button in your car that, depending on the day, if you press it, it will run the car off the road. And they're
disclosed.
They're saying to the people buying the car, we'll give you the car. Please don't use that button yet. We're going to work with you to try to get the button to work properly, but don't use it yet, because if you do, we're going to have problems.
That's
the issue.
Disclosed, but that's disclosed. The Department of War understands that. Anthropic has put the Department of War on notice, but then to go in and prescribe the usage, at least according to some of the reports, that they have to commit and obligate the Department of War to the company that they won't be looking at trying to deploy the asset or the AI for a particular purpose.
And OpenAI has made that same stipulation.
Well, again, I just question
the stipulation is across the board. Everybody who's developing this technology is saying there are certain things we think it's good for in this moment. There's certain things we don't think it's ready for, including autonomous weapons. They don't think it's ready for that. And then there's this issue around surveillance, which is very interesting because technically mass surveillance is absolutely illegal. However, in this new era that we're living in, you can actually buy up enough other stuff from other people that effectively, while it looks legal on the face of it, potentially collecting all of that together and then putting it together in ways that we never could have imagined before.
This is different.
It's very different.
This is different than your suggestion about the button in the car. Okay.
Well, I think there's two issues on the table.
Right. That is the imperfection and the danger in the technology that is being hammered out between the two parties. But the other piece about surveillance, and this is when you get into these companies beginning to tell the Department of War how they should conduct the war. And, we have a constitution and we have rules by which the Department of War has to conduct itself. So I'm not sure why that's not good enough for the likes of Anthropic to satisfy themselves that there won't be some untoward use.